Westmark. It is a complicated and politically dangerous period in Westmark. The country's ruler, King Augustine IV, has slipped into dementia, depression and illness since the supposed death of his only child, Princess Augusta, over 6 years ago. Despite the efforts of the Queen, Caroline, and the court physician, Dr. Torrens, the king is increasingly manipulated by his chief minister, Cabarrus, who has designs on the throne. While the ill king is kept distracted by a series of mystics and charlatans who claim to be able to speak to his dead child, Cabarrus increases his control over Westmark, restricting freedoms and abusing the king's powers. Young Theo, an orphan, has been raised in a small town, Groningen, by a printer named Anton. After the pair accepts a job from a traveling salesman, they are investigated by Cabarrus men, who declare their job illegal and proceed to destroy their press. In the ensuing scuffle and chase, Theo attacks a soldier and Anton is shot and killed. With no one else to turn to, Theo takes to the countryside, eventually meeting up with the men who hired him and Anton for the printing job, Count Las Bombas, a con artist, and his dwarf driver/partner Musket. Theo joins up with them, rather reluctantly, and ends up participating in their money-making schemes. They eventually discover a girl named Mikkel, a poor street urchin, who has a talent for throwing her voice and mimicry. The Count builds a charade around Mikkel, dressing her up as the oracle priestess and putting her on display, claiming that she can speak to the spirits of the dead. Theo, despite his growing affection for the bright but vulnerable Mikkel, begins to find his new life too dishonest for his tastes and abandons the group, eventually falling in with Florian, an anti-monarchist and rebel who plans revolution with his band of loyal followers whom he calls his children. Meanwhile, Mikkel, Las Bombas, and Musket have been arrested for fraud. Cabarrus has attempted to have Dr. Torrens assassinated, and a politically minded journalist, Keller, goes into hiding to save himself from Cabarrus' wrath. Events come to a head when Theo plots to break his old companions out of prison, with help from Florian and his friends. Their reunion, however, does not last long. Cabarrus has tracked them down and has them all arrested. He brings the group to the Old Juliana, the palace of King Augustine IV and Queen Caroline, where reveals his plans to the group and of how the oracle priestess will be his pawn to his uprising to the throne. While in Old Juliana, Mikkel comes across a trapdoor leading to a water canal, and her memories race in her mind as she remembers her childhood. This leads to her high fever and Theo's worry of her having to act. Cabarrus presents the group to the king and queen and the courtiers as the oracle priestess, and suddenly Mikkel's long-repressed childhood memories come to the surface, revealing treason, attempted murder and corruption in the heart of the Westmark government. It is later revealed that Mikkel is the long-lost Princess Augusta and that Chief Minister Cabarrus was responsible for her disappearance. Eventually, on the subject of Cabarrus's punishment, Theo, on behalf of his conscience, sends him into exile, instead of killing him. This decision will have a major effect on the final book of the Westmark trilogy, The Beggar Queen.